I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with actor Jason Ritter. In this episode, we talk about him growing up as a third-generation Hollywood actor. We talk about that old social media platform Vine, because Jason had quite a following on Vine, and he had really awesome videos. We also talk about his appearance on every single episode of his father's television show Three's Company. I bet most of you didn't know that. We also talk about what he was voted most likely to in high school. We also talk about his television show Kevin Probably Saves the World. And we talk about the difficulties of managing his fledgling career in the midst of the unexpected loss of his father. Parts of this do get emotional, so prepare yourself for that. This is only part 1, guys. Make sure you come back next week for part 2. And this is my conversation with Jason Ritter.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Jason Ritter. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing a lot better now. It was a little bit of a rough day, but now that I'm talking to you, it's all good.
That's good to hear.
Now, I thought I was a huge fan of yours until I started doing some research for this interview. And obviously you've done some of my favorite things, but the amount of things that you have done, oh my gosh, I literally had no idea, so I apologize. Oh my gosh.
No problem. I'm not going to quiz you.
Thank goodness. All right, so you heard that right, folks. This is that Jason Ritter. So, Jason, can you tell us a little bit about where you were born and raised?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California in 1980. I grew up out here, just the time going by, no seasons really, no snow, just kind of nice weather most of the time. And yeah, I stayed here for most of my life. I mean, in summers I'd go away to camp in Colorado that my grandfather went to and a bunch of my relatives had gone to. But other than that, it was mostly Los Angeles for my entire childhood.
So basically an hour from the beach and 2 hours from the snow?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, you poor person.
Although I didn't go to either of those too much.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, at some point you decided that you were going to go to, I think it's NYU, right? Did you go to Tisch?
I did. I went to Tisch. Yeah.
How come?
It was a bunch of different reasons. The idea of being in New York was really appealing to me. I feel like it's a much different world now. I feel like there are so many productions are filming all over the place. But when I was starting, it felt like to be an actor, I wanted to try to start it in Los Angeles or New York. And I had spent my whole childhood in Los Angeles, and I wanted to see that. And also one of my best friends in the entire world had gotten into NYU, and the idea that we could be roommates was also appealing. And yeah, it all just kind of came together to make me want to go and live in that city. Also, I think because New York scared me a little bit, and I wanted to rise to the challenge.
I have been to New York a few times, and coming from small town Texas, I will agree with you. New York scared the shit out of me. But it was a lot of fun once I got over that being terrified thing. Paris was the same way. But once you get over that fear, it's all good. Who was your friend that was going to go and you were going to be roommates with?
Simon Helberg. He's also an amazing actor as well as being my best friend. He's incredible. We've been friends since we were 13, about making little, prank calls and being little long-haired jerks. And then we went to New York together and studied at the Atlantic Theater Company together, and still really, really great friends. He's an incredible human being.
Very cool. Everybody, you might know Simon from I guess Big Bang Theory, but that's probably the smallest thing he's ever done. The biggest thing he's ever done is he played Moist in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. He was Moist.
That is true. He was Moist. That was an incredible thing. That's one of my favorites is his credits. Also was in Florence Foster Jenkins playing the piano with Meryl Streep a couple of years ago.
Well, get right on out of town.
Yeah, exactly. Things that I'm very proud of my middle school best friend.
Well,
yeah,
I should say
he's killing
so.
it.
I should say so. I actually have been in Simon's office.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure that he probably hasn't been in that office since I have even.
Maybe not.
So he has an office over at the Antaeus Theater Company I think it's in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It might be Glendale.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I interviewed Bill Brochtrup.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did the interview in Simon's office, so that was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Antaeus does great work here. They're an amazing theater company. Highly recommended to anybody visiting Los Angeles or Glendale. It's close by.
Me too. I highly recommend that also. And for those of you listening, Glendale is basically a suburb of LA. Don't get it, like, they make it seem like it's, really far. It is LA. It's just Glendale. Everybody relax. Now, Jason, I know that you don't remember this, and nor should you, but you and I have interacted with each other once before, sort of.
Really?
Yeah, well, ish. We both have the distinction of being on the Kevin Pollak chat show. Filmed at the West Side Comedy Theater in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Now, I was the only person in the audience for the episode with David Koechner. It wasn't a live show, so it's not like nobody showed up. Kevin was nice enough to let me sit quietly in the audience while he was interviewing David on my first trip to LA. And then you were also a guest on the Kevin Pollak chat show, but Kevin wasn't there. Sam Levine sat in for him and interviewed you.
Yes.
And on your episode, Sam read you a couple of questions from Twitter it might have been from emails, but it was from fans, and one of them was mine.
No way! That is so wild.
Yes, and my question
that's amazing.
My question was, why are you so good at Vines? That tells you how long ago it was, people. There was Vines.
Oh, there were Vines. I haven't spoken about it to a point of pain for me, but all of my Vines got erased. They're all gone.
That is a crime.
I don't know what happened. They were like, oh, we're gonna keep some Vines, and you can look up some of them, but make sure you download all of them so that you can have it. And I don't remember what was going on. I was like, I don't have space on my phone, but I made an assumption, and then I just checked, and they're like, oh, no, we didn't keep your Vine.
Nice.
We kept like the big Viners Vines. And I was like, why?
Well, I really enjoyed your Vines. I really, really enjoyed it.
So it's all in a memory, but thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I had so much fun making them.
And what I thought was really cool was that it didn't seem like you felt pressured to make them. You just made them when you felt inspired. Yeah.
I never let it feel like it was a job or something like that, where I was like, hey, I got to create this content. It was just like, mostly it was sitting around slightly bored, or some little stupid idea that made me laugh came to me, and I went, here, I'll purge it by putting it on Vine and force other people to see it if they want to.
Yes. Everybody else enjoy it. I know I did. I had so much fun, and I would look forward to them. That was just a super fun time. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Now, we are going to get into your career and things a little bit, but why did you want to become an actor? I know that you are third generation. Your grandfather and your father were both in the business quite successfully. So what made you decide to do? Oh, and I know that your siblings, or I think all of them, are in the business too, right?
My brother Tyler is an actor. My sister Carly is an incredible actor, but she went more the route of my grandfather and went into music. So she records songs, and my youngest brother's in college, and I think he could be an actor as well, but he hasn't expressed interest yet. He's in criminal psychology and having a great time.
So your brother's a criminal. Got it.
Yeah, one of my brothers is a criminal. Yeah.
So how come you decided to get into the business?
I mean, I think it was a couple of things. There was one element of being around it and seeing what it was like, when I would go and visit my dad, and it seemed like he was having such a great time and he really had a passion for it. And so there was an element of that. And then I think I really loved doing it. I was one of those kids who, went out for the school play and then just loved the whole process of it. I just like trying to make people laugh. I like learning lines and thinking about it. And I think in a lot of ways it was almost a way to learn about people and a way to figure out how they tick. And, every once in a while, especially when I was growing up, you'd be talking about a character and why they are doing a certain thing or why they say this thing, and you're trying to piece it all together. And you would learn something. You're like, oh, I haven't had this experience in my personal life as a 11-year-old or however old I was at the time. But now I can kind of understand what that's like. And I think I had a lot of empathy for other people. Always have, put myself in other people's shoes sort of automatically, almost to a point of like self paralysis, just not wanting to step on anybody's toes ever. So I think it was fun for me to step into another world, and it felt like it always made a little bit more sense, sort of in a controlled environment where I could exist and talk and listen and be someone else and put the real world aside for an hour and a half or however long the play was.
And if I am correct in assuming, as is the case with most parent actors, they really don't want their kids to go into the business. Was that the case with you too?
No, it wasn't actually. That was the case for both my parents, actually. Their parents, my grandparents, who were lovely people, had a lot of real concerns. And, my dad's dad was an actor, and he had concerns from the inside. He wanted my dad to do something where he would be sure to make money, and he knew that there were lots of ups and downs, and it was not something that you could necessarily count on or plan for or build a life on, for certain. And so I think it came from wanting to protect them, but I think for both my parents, it was painful for them to, have their dream and have it just sort of not encouraged. Neither of them were stopped by their parents. They still were able to do it, but, there was just a lot more concern than, you can do anything you put your mind to. However, that was also not how they talked to me about it. It wasn't like, you can do anything you put your mind to. They just sort of took me seriously when I said I wanted to do it. They were like, okay, well, it's a craft, and, you got to learn about it. Here's the books, here's some books to read. Here's the performances you need to watch. They were like, gave me all this homework. I was like, never mind. I thought it would just be kind of like walking around saying other people's words. But yes, it was enough where they really took me seriously, and they told me that it was very competitive, and potentially I was opening myself up to a world of constant rejection and pain. But then, like, once I had all the information, they let me kind of go and to fail or not on my own terms, which was lovely.
Very cool. I like when parents do that.
Yes, me too.
That said, I could be wrong, but I think your very first television appearance was on Three's Company. Were you in the opening credits?
I was in the opening credits, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they were at the zoo. They were doing all the montage-y stuff, and I guess I wriggled out of my mom's arms and ruined a shot, essentially, but they kept it in because it was fun. Joyce didn't seem to mind.
Well, did you get paid on that?
I don't think I did. Maybe I should look into that. No, I don't think...
Yeah, I feel like they owe you a lot of money in residuals, man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get on the phone and say, hey...
Because that was back when residuals mattered. That was back when it was real money.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for Yeah, for sure. I'll just say, hey, you haven't given me enough.
All right. I'll put in a phone call to the president of show business.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I got your back, man. I got your back.
I appreciate it. Although I don't know if I was in the union yet, so it might get me in trouble.
Conundrum.
Well, you can get some, leave it alone.
All right. I have a quote here from somebody about you, and I want you to see if you can figure out who said it, okay?
Okay. Uh-oh.
This is about you. I love him so much. He is one of the greatest actors of my generation. He has that pixie dust.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, of my generation, so it's someone around my age.
Yes, and someone who I would assume you're friends with.
Oh, gosh, I don't even know. Simon?
Good guess, but no. That was a little unknown fellow by the name of Dax Shepard.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, that makes more sense. Yes. Well, that's lovely. He's such a lovely person and an important person to me. And, that's so nice that he said that.
Hey, Streetwalkers. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Guess what, Streetwalkers? The gear is here. A bunch of you have been asking for quite some time, and now finally it's here. Head over to FascinationStreetPod.com and check out the Gear tab. There, you'll find all kinds of FSP items to tickle your fancy. T-shirts, coffee mugs, sticker packs, pins, buttons, coasters, and my personal favorite, for just $5 you can get one of those weird little phone handle pop thingies. So head to FascinationStreetPod.com and show the world that you're proud to be a streetwalker. Special thanks to my good buddy Stephen O'Reilly from the Bar Star Podcast for these dope drum beats. Check out Steve's work at O'Reilly Drums on Instagram or search Stephen O'Reilly on YouTube.
Let's get back into it.
I was told by somebody else to call you Jace the Ace from outer space.
Yes, that was a nickname given to me by
yourself,
my parents.
Oh, your parents.
By
That's
myself,
good.
Yeah, exactly. When I was a kid, I guess I just spaced out a lot. It wasn't because I was an astronaut. They'd just give me a balloon, and I would just focus in on the balloon like it was the most important thing, and I could just entertain myself and just kind of go into my own world. So I heard the phrase "Earth to Jason" quite a lot in my childhood because I'd just be off in my own little dream world. And so then Jace the Ace from outer space, or Jace the Space Ace. It was only much later that I learned that nicknames are usually shorter and quicker than your actual name. But Jace the Ace from outer space had a nice rhythm to it.
Yeah, I don't think that'll fit on the back of a jersey, but I still like it.
It won't.
I think you got a movie before you got your very first TV show, right? Weren't you in Freddy vs. Jason or something?
The first movie I was in was called Mumford. That was written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan.
Wow.
And I was, it was pretty amazing. And Simon ended up also being in it, and it was also Zooey Deschanel's first movie as well. We were all in high school, and we all auditioned for it, and ended up getting different parts of it. But yes, then 3 or 4 years later, I got Freddy vs. Jason. But Mumford was such an incredible experience, and it was a wonderful first job. I was so terrified, but Lawrence was so warm and so kind and so lovely, and felt very lucky.
Now, the first pilot you ever shot, you got it, right? Wasn't that Joan of Arcadia? Was that the first pilot you ever went out for? Or, well, actually, the first pilot you ever shot?
That was I had gone out for a bunch of pilots that season, but yeah, it was the first pilot I got. And then when it got picked up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And we went for 2 seasons, and it was very exciting. But yeah, I kind of couldn't believe it. I had been told so much that, so many pilots get made, only a certain number can get picked up. And then, it's such a gamble. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And that was also a show filled with incredibly special people, Mary Steenburgen and Amber Tamlin and Joe Mantegna and Michael Welch, and just a big great family.
I've never heard of any of those names. Now, totally kidding. So I read somewhere that your inspiration for that character on Joan of Arcadia was Drake's character in Degrassi.
That is not true.
Yeah, we're both in wheelchairs for the whole time?
Yes, we certainly were. But I actually I knew Drake as a rapper before I came to know his character in Degrassi High. I didn't know that until afterwards. But yes, very similar.
Very similar. Now you can go on to your rap career. Cool.
Exactly. It's coming right up.
Hey, what's your rap name going to be? Oh, please say Jace the Ace.
It's got to be Jace the Ace, and then in parentheses from outer space.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, why not add some punctuation?
Yeah, and you only rap about sci-fi nerd stuff, right?
I actually, now I'm into it.
Yeah, all right.
I might try that, yeah.
All right. You hear that, Vine? See what you missed out on?
Exactly. You burned me, and now I'm a huge nerd rap guy.
Okay, so Joan of Arcadia ran for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to get too specific about part of this time period, but I really want to focus on the difficulty of trying to navigate your first ever show during the loss of your father. I don't want to talk too much about that. Your dad. I don't know. But I just want to talk about from the business side, from trying to get your own show, which is super hard to manage in itself, but then compounded by arguably the biggest tragedy of your life up to that point.
It was very intense. I have to say it was. He had seen the pilot presentation. I had given him I think it was like, a 30-minute thing before we shot the rest of the pilot. So he had seen that, and he had given me, he always had like notes and little ideas and things like that. It never felt oppressive, just sort of like, oh, this could be fun for next time or something like that. And he really just was like, that was really beautiful. And he told me a couple moments that he liked, and it was really lovely. And then I think he died a week before it aired. So it was intense because in that period of time, everyone's doing a lot of press, and, you're trying to have this positive energy and get the show out there and all this stuff. And, they let me not do that. And I did feel like they circled the wagons around me, and, all the cast and the producers were very protective and sweet, and they were really there for me in that period of time. And continue to be. It really does feel like we were a family. But I think one of the interesting things about it was we were doing a show that was very spiritual and kind of about there being a plan and trying to make sense of the universe and things like that. And we had even just shot an episode that was all about death, or that was the next episode that we were shooting. It was actually about death, and Joan confronts God about death. And so it all felt very, it was confusing. If something like that happens and your world is just kind of turned upside down, it feels strange that anything continues to happen. It just, it's bizarre. But I do feel really lucky that in that period of time I was surrounded with such lovely people, and Joe Mantegna in particular sort of stepped in a very subtle and respectful way, just kind of gave me a lot of dad energy and lots of proud of yous and all that kind of stuff. And it really meant a lot to me. But yeah, it was bizarre. We went to the People's Choice Awards a couple months later, and I was still sort of reeling from it. It just was weird to talk and kind of put on a smile and talk to people when, it'd be one thing if it was just a private loss that nobody knew about. But, there was quite a few months where everybody I was talking to was, had a big sad face on, whether or not I was having an okay day or not. It felt like, God, got to talk about it again. And it got easier as time goes on to sort of navigate all that. But it was bizarre to be in a completely new and foreign scenario, and one in which I really would have loved to have his advice too, in that period of time, and still. But yeah, it felt sort of like I wish we could be talking about it. I wish, all sorts of stuff. But I do feel lucky that I had a job to go to and that there was some kind of structure. I think if I just was out in the world or still trying to audition, I don't know. I could have fallen apart even worse. But it was nice to go into work and be with a group of people who I loved and I cared about and who cared about me. And I'm just forever grateful to all of them for that.
Well, it sounds like you had a pretty good support system in the show. And from what I understand, that's not always the case with shows and the people in them.
Yeah.
So
yes, no, that's true.
I think that's super awesome. And I feel like it sucks to say it this way, but I think you kind of got a little bit lucky in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Nobody could ever say you're lucky for losing your dad, but, that you had that in place, sort of at the right time. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely would say that I was lucky. I mean, and Mary Steenburgen too is just like, she's a walking light of this earth. She's just sort of healing to be in her presence, even if everything's fine. You're around her and you're like, I feel better. And I'd known her since I was in high school and a little bit. I mean, she knew my dad and she was lovely about it too. So yeah, I definitely feel lucky that I was able to see such a great group of people every day in that period of time. And that also was shooting in Los Angeles. So I could also be with my family and kind of go back and forth. I wasn't, in another state or somewhere else isolated and alone. There's a big support system there for all of us.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to thank you for sharing your dad with the rest of us. He legitimately kept me out of some trouble because I had to be at home right after school for appointment television to watch Three's Company and laugh and have a great time. So thank you for sharing your dad with us. He kept me out of trouble.
That's good to hear. That's amazing.
So I'm only going to talk about him one more thing before we move on. And
yeah.
That is, how intimidating was it or is it to have your father be so big and so loved and so appreciated? Like, does that put any pressure on you at all?
I felt it a lot more when I was first starting out, and especially when I was going in for comedy auditions or sitcoms in particular. I felt like the casting director or the producers could make the most direct comparison. And he was so funny that I just knew I was not as funny as he was. So, and I have no idea if any of this about the casting directors thinking that or feeling that, how much of it came from them and how I bet 99% of it was my own insecurities and things like that. But regardless of where it came from, I would go into those early comedy auditions and be just shaking, which didn't happen as much, in auditioning for some of the more serious things. So I feel like that's partly why I gravitated to some of those kinds of roles earlier on and only got into doing comedy a little bit later as I got more comfortable. But I do have to say that him being as nice as he was and loved as he was, that was always a plus. I mean, I've come across people who have, inside the acting world and outside, who have to sort of go around apologizing for their parents and, oh, you met my mom or my dad? Oh, I'm so sorry. Did he say or do anything terrible to you? Please, I'm not like him, things like that. And it was really lovely that he left such a nice feeling in most people's hearts. And still, as I go around in my life, someone will tell me some weird, nice story of him, I don't know, giving up a seat at the Starbucks or something like that. Just like some little nice thing that he wouldn't have raced home and told all of us. But, he created these little lovely memories for lots of people. And I appreciate being a recipient of a lot of those stories. So yeah, there's two things. And I think all of the positive stuff way outweighs the negative stuff. And I do think most of the negative stuff was more to do with my own insecurities than, how the world perceived me or anything like that.
Well, that is very, very cool. Very sweet. Now on to some more embarrassing stuff. Besides a stuntman, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, wow. Well, stuntman was a big one. Astronaut was also a big one. I don't know if that had to do with being called Jace the Ace from Outer Space so long. I felt like I need to go back home. That's where I'm from. I'm from out there. But I definitely wanted to float around and visit new places. You know, I think I was very impressionable, and so almost any movie that I saw, I was like, oh, well, what does that guy do? Indiana Jones is a archaeologist? All right, then I'll do that. That seems cool. Oh, wait, the reality is you're not constantly in very exciting action scenes and booby-trapped temples all the time. It's much more subtle and digging and brushing aside and cataloging. Maybe not. But so I was fascinated by so many different jobs. And then it seemed at the end of the day, I was like, wait, if you're an actor, maybe you can pretend like you're some of these other jobs every once in a while. Kind of get a little taste of all.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps them keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening.
Hey, are you interested in getting from A to B while sitting? At Detroit Bikes, we've got a new product that I think you're going to love. It's a bicycle. It's got 2 wheels, hence the bi. And the sickle is because it's a cycle that your wheel's going. So this is a product where you've got a seat. You are actually sitting while moving.
Wow.
And it's as easy as just pedaling, pushing with your legs. So we think that customers are going to love this product, and we hope you'll check it out at www.detroitbikes.com.
www.detroitbikes.com.
Let's get back into it.
Have you gotten to play a stuntman or an outer space person yet?
Actually, yes, kind of. On the show that I did a couple of years ago, Kevin Probably Saves the World, they let me do a bunch of my own stunts. An incredible stuntman named Chris Leps, who was so fun and so amazing and really got into the strange and quirky, funny, weird spirit of the show. But there was one fantasy sequence where I got to float around in a spacesuit, and it was very, very exciting.
Oh, cool.
It didn't feel like zero gravity.
Sure.
But I did get to float. I did, it looked like yeah. They were hoisting me up, and, a lot more pressure in the old hips, crotch area with the harness than it would be in zero gravity. But still, I was up in the sky floating around in a spacesuit.
So you got to do stunts and space stuff all in the same show. That's awesome.
Yeah, that show was like a dream show for me. It just felt like I just get to do every fun thing I've ever wanted, and I really had so much fun on that show. The creators gave me a real gift with that one.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that show. Did you, in fact, actually save the world?
Well, we're all still here, so at least for now.
Yeah.
I didn't get to in the show because we got canceled after one season, which seems to happen. Has happened a couple times, but I imagine that he did. I hope.
Very cool. Let's just assume yes.
Yeah. Let's just assume yes.
Season 2, episode 1. There was only going to be one episode, and that would have been it. So sorry, guys.
Exactly. Well, actually, in the fantasy sequence where I floated around as an astronaut, Kevin's fantasy of finding the final person, saving the world, and none of it happened for real. But I have taken that little fantasy and turned it into the series finale. I'm like, okay, that wasn't a fantasy. That was a premonition. That is what happens. He saves the world up in space. There are fireworks that say Kevin, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Well, fantastic. Do you know what a high school superlative is? A high school yearbook superlative?
It's like a regular lative, but super.
It is a regular lative. You're right. You're correct.
No, I can't remember what a superlative is.
Yeah, that's that thing where they say most likely to whatever.
Oh, yes.
Or least likely to whatever. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I do. Did you find out what I was most likely to?
This can't possibly be the case. My research shows that you were voted most likely to fall asleep during sex. Is that right?
Yes, but let me explain.
No, that's it. It's just yes or no, Your Honor. I don't need any. Now, go ahead. What do you got? Give me an excuse.
Yes, most likely to sleep through sex, but that had way more to do with the fact that I could sleep through anything. So while I didn't have a chance while in high school to prove to anybody that I wouldn't fall asleep during that particular act, because I had a bad habit of I fell asleep in class. I've actually truly wondered if I have some kind of low-level undiagnosed narcolepsy because it hits me and I am out. I don't know what happens. It's a lot of times it's when I'm sitting down and if I'm just supposed to listen. I'm not supposed to talk. I'm just supposed to sit quietly. It happens in plays. It happens in movies. Something happens. I feel it happening in my brain, and my eyes cannot stay open. So they were teasing me about sleeping, not the other part. I wish they had chosen something like more exciting, more sleep through a earthquake or something like that. I feel like the connotations are so rude, especially when I had no idea if it would be true or not.
Man, you're saying so many key words. You're bouncing me all over the place. You mentioned earthquakes. Now I got to talk to you about there's one day every 40 years when the tectonic plates move in L.A. and you can hear them.
Oh, no.
You were there that day. Tell me that story.
I got a call from my good friend Nick Town who said, "Are you hearing this?" And I said, "No, what?" And he went, oh my God, have you been living under a rock? The tectonic plates are moving and you can actually hear them. Go outside. People are at the park. Everyone's doing this. I cannot believe. I thought you would have seen it on the internet. Like you should be up on these things. I ran outside. I put my ear to the ground. I couldn't hear anything. He went, "No, it's so crazy. It really sounds like a monster whistling," he said. And then he said, I see a lot of people out here have like glasses. Do you have any sort of pint glasses or any kind of thing you can put on your ear to the ground? So I run back up into my apartment. I grab a glass. I come down. I'm getting all wet from the dewy grass. And I have the glass on my ear and the glass on the ground. And nobody else is doing this in my neighborhood. And I'm thinking to myself, you fools. My friend tells me all of the interesting things that are happening, and I am not missing this incredible event, even though I can't hear it. And so I get another text from him. He says, "Well, here, I think I can get a recording of it. Here, hold on." So he sends me this WAV file that then I play, and I hear what sounds like April Fool. And it was all a elaborate April Fool's prank that really got me. And then I tried to do it to one of our other friends who immediately said, "Is this an April Fool's Day thing?" And I will never understand how some people wake up on April Fools and are protected themselves from, they just like, nothing is going to be true today. I won't fall for any of it. I fall for things on April Fool's Day multiple times, and I always know it's April Fool's Day because it's my mom's birthday. So I wake up on April 1st knowing that it's April 1st, and still I'm gullible enough that a friend of mine can call and say, "You got to get outside and put your ear down to the grass and listen to these tectonic plates shifting."
Now, at the beginning of this story, you said that this was a good friend.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to have to question the goodness of this person. What an evil, evil bastard. That's terrible. And I love every second of it.
That's the thing. I loved it too. I love a good prank. Even if I'm the butt of it, I appreciate it. And I really took my hat off to him. Also, I could not recognize that it was his voice when he started the April Fool's thing. And he did it for way longer than I just did it now. I'm trying to save a little bit of time, but the A of April Fool's was at least 30 seconds or something like that. It was basically the end of his breath that he got to the April Fool's part. But
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's got an evil genius streak.
Unrelated to what we were talking about before, you have one of the funniest stories about your very first professional play. Can you tell it?
My very first professional play at the beginning of August?
No, your very first professional play ever, which I would assume would be a long time ago. Word on the street is that you... Oh. Yeah, what happened? What'd you do during that? Mm-hmm.
Does it have anything to do with my most likely to?
Yes. What happened, man? Tell that story.
Well, so it was a play called The Beginning of August. That's why. It's at the Atlantic Theater Company.
Oh, that's so funny. I thought you were talking about 6 months ago. I'm an idiot.
I know. No, not at all. Even at the time we were doing the play, and there were billboards everywhere, I'd say the beginning of August, and they go, no, now. I'm talking about now. No, I know. You see that it's called that. But anyway, this is actually when I first worked with Mary Steenburgen a couple of years before Joan of Arcadia, where we first got close by. Doing a play, and there's a scene where I'm supposed to go up the stairs, and at a certain point I'm supposed to peek my head out the window and say a quick line and then come back down. But because of the way that we built the set, it was not a real second story to the house, so I had to kind of lay down next to the window and then just sort of pop up my head because there was only enough room for about that much space. And one night, I laid down. I wasn't feeling particularly tired. I don't know what happened, but the weird wave hit me. And all of a sudden, I woke up with a start, and I could not tell if I had missed my cue or I didn't know where they were in the script at all. It was like that thing where you have a short, deep sleep nap, and you kind of are disoriented when you wake up, but it was in the middle of a play. And with a paying audience and all of that. And it's because I didn't immediately recognize where they were in the scene that was happening below, I thought this could be 5-10 minutes after I was supposed to, and they've just been improvising, waiting for me to pop my head up or something. But luckily at a certain point, pretty shortly after I woke up, I heard the line that was my cue and was able to pop up and say my line and then go slap my face several times before I had my next entrance. And then there was lots of coffee drank after that show. I was determined to never have it happen again. And I didn't tell anybody because it was my first job, and now it's sort of a funny story, but then it's like, is this going to happen again? Are you on drugs? What's happening?
Yeah, I guess it's only funny when you've got 300 projects under your belt after that.
And nobody was harmed as the play went on. I didn't ruin the show. No, it was a learning experience for me.
Do you still have a poster of Fred Savage on your wall?
I don't anymore. Yeah, I believe it's in a box at my mom's house. It was a signed 8x10.
Oh, it was signed.
Oh, yeah. It said, Dear Jason, follow your dream. Something very inspiring. Because at a certain point, I wanted to be a child actor. That was the one thing that my parents were like, no. No, that's just a hard no on that one. But you can be an actor. You can act in plays and stuff here, but we're not going to go the professional route with you at this point. They're like, I think it's easier to transition into an adult actor from a young adult actor as opposed to a child. And I think that was the right decision for me. That's not that I worked with a lot of amazing child actors who were awesome, and it's a good choice for them. But for me, I was just too shy and everything. But anyway, yeah, so he was the king of the child actor at that point. He was funny and he was dramatic, and The Wonder Years was such a wonderful show. And then he was also in Princess Bride killing it. And he was just the best. And it's been a real thrill to meet him a couple of times as an adult. Although I don't know if I've ever gotten the courage to tell him exactly how much he meant to me growing up, but he meant quite a lot.
Well, you just did. Say hello, Fred. Oh, no, he's not here.
Ah, he's been listening the whole time.
Yes. Silently for an hour. That poor guy.
Yes, exactly. I forgot to bring this up earlier in the podcast. Sorry.
Yeah, oh, my bad. Oh, you know what, Jason? I think I saw you one time. I was eating outside at a restaurant. I think it was in New York. I was like on a sidewalk or something eating, and you were on the phone, but you were standing like right next to like a phone booth. This will tell you how long ago it was. Like a phone booth or whatever, and it had a poster of you on it. And then, like, almost out of a movie, it's like you noticed it and then ran around the corner or whatever. And then I was like, was that really him? And so I ran around the corner to see if it was really you. But then this time you were standing under a giant billboard of you. Oh, my God. I'm sure you don't remember that, but that was the craziest thing.
I think I mean, I don't know if I remember that exact experience. That I don't know if I remember that time, but I do remember that happening where I was on the phone in my own little JC Ace for Outer Space world and standing somewhere and then seeing that there was a big poster of my face. I think it was around the time that the event was out. So there were all these big posters everywhere, and I would see one and I would be so embarrassed by the idea that someone like you may see me and think, oh, I'm here talking loudly on my phone, trying to be like, hey, look, who's in this guy in this poster. So anytime I saw it, I would run away so as not to seem like I was purposefully standing in front of my own face trying to draw attention to it.
I thought it was weird that you kept saying on the phone loudly, no, nothing. What are you leaning against? It was really weird.
Yeah. Just a really exciting new show poster. I heard the lead guy's amazing.
Yeah, no, you kept going like, no, nothing. What are you watching on Thursdays at 7 Central?
At 8 o'clock. Yeah, exactly.
That was a lie. I just wanted you to tell that story. I was nowhere near there.
Okay. I really believe
it was a great story, and I want. Good. Oh, cool. Yeah. Now I'm an actor too. All right.
Exactly.
At a certain point in an actor's career, they become offer only, meaning that they only accept roles that they're offered without having to audition. Are you there yet?
No, I mean, there are certain things. I think with certain independent movies. Well, even then, I'm not offer only, but I have had a couple offers come in, which is so incredibly exciting. And that I remember the first time that happened, and I was like, wait, what? That's it? I don't have to audition? They just think I can do it? But no, I think there are always. I mean, there, you know, if Martin Scorsese or something were to be, or I don't know, any of the great directors were to be casting a beautiful, wonderful movie with a great part in it, I think saying offer only to one of those guys would be unwise. But I know that there are some people who do say offer only across the board. And I also have heard that backfiring on a bunch of people, because sometimes even if you're really great, sometimes the role requires something that people haven't seen you do before. And so there's an element of needing to sort of prove to them, well, or at least show them, this is what I'm planning to do. Because there is always an awkward moment when I've shown up to set on something that I haven't auditioned for, where there's this real trust there, and I'm so terrified that I'll, do the first scene and they'll go, whoa, okay, so was that just rehearsal? Are you going to do it like that? There hasn't been this sort of vetting process where I've been able to say, hey, this is my audition. This is kind of what I'm going to do in the show. Are you okay with that? And they go, yes, you got the part, or absolutely not. That's terrible. When you just show up, there's always this feeling of, they've really taken a leap of faith, and you could really disappoint them.
It is a little weird, though. Your job is a little weird because it's not like, if you're a plumber, then you go to somebody's house and they go, well, let me see you plumb, and then I'll decide if I'm going to hire you. It's a little weird.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I never thought about it that way. Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we're going to cut it right there. Thanks for hanging out this long for part 1 of Jason Ritter, and come back next week for part 2 of my conversation with Jason Ritter. As always, thanks for listening, Streetwalkers. And don't forget, follow the show on Twitter at FascinationSTPD, on Instagram at FascinationStreetPod. Follow the podcast page on Facebook at Fascination Street Podcast. And of course, you can always email me at fascinationstreetpod@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and rate us on iTunes. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.